Seder is on Tuesday, the 23rd at 6 o'clock. The deadline is this week. I think it's very early this week, maybe Monday or Tuesday. So please give Michelle a call, just send her an email, and you'll be all set up for it. Then we'll be off again the 2 nights later on the 26th. And then when we return on May 3rd, we're going to be hosting, for the first time in about 5 or 6 years, our entire movement is going to be here. We'll be celebrating the graduation of 2 rabbis from communities throughout the country, of a large number of officiants, including Melanie Goldberg from our own congregation. One Madrich is going to be graduating as well. The next morning, I just found out SIVAN's not going to be here, although she'll be with us here on the screen tonight, but she won't be with us here in person due to the war. But we'll have a Torah study. I think I'm still going to be involved in that, and a couple of panel discussions. And then on Sunday, if you may have seen it in our newsletter, the Jews for Secular Democracy are hosting a fundraiser at noon at the Krishna restaurant in Orchard Lake, which everybody seems to know exactly where that is. It's a very popular restaurant. And if you're interested in finding out more of that, it's also in our newsletter. So everything is there, including the biggest thing that we have coming up. And really, it's about the biggest thing we've done with our Social Justice Committee for a very long time, because while we've had sandwich making events, and we've even had this day of celebration, they've sort of been put off into summer, or we had to do it in a kind of a modified way due to the pandemic. This is the first time we're going to have everybody at the congregation able to come. It'll be on Sunday at noon. I hope you've all noticed it. There's going to be speakers here, representatives from local organizations, of course, the sandwich making, lunch, but you got to come at noon for that. And also some activities for children, especially a little learning session, and even some gardening and some other kinds of things. The knitting group, I think, is going to meet as well. Did I leave anything out, Audrey? I got it all. All righty. So, having now made the announcements, I want to, we're going to do something a little different tonight, because we have Sheldon Halpern and his family, and I'm so delighted to see you guys all here. I had the privilege of being a little bit part of Shakoi's bar mitzvah. I think it might have been the first or second one I did here 10 years ago, and she's a full-fledged grown-up now. And, huh? Say what? Okay. And the whole family is here tonight because Suri, who is the youngest of the 3, right? Of Shakoi and Soleil. Suri is the youngest of 3. She's going to receive a Hebrew name tonight. And we're just so happy that you could be here. And the Oneg Shabbat is sponsored by Sheldon in honor of his beautiful granddaughter and his wonderful family. And I want to invite Suri to come up, and I'll just say a couple words about your name. So this is Suri Eden Ewing, and her parents are here, Kesha and Ralph, and other extended members of her family too. So they picked out your name without me, but I understand you picked it out a little bit too, that you picked out the Shalev part. So the name that you're being given in Hebrew is Shalev Shai. The 2 words, Shalev means calm and tranquil. And apparently that's what everybody thinks of you, which you're going to get through life very well that way, because the rest of us are very neurotic. So that's a wonderful name to honor that, I think, a very special personality trait. And Shai, this I think your parents picked out. Shai means a gift. And this is their way, of course, of, it means a gift, which every child is. But isn't it beautiful when we can say that in their name, what a gift they are to us. So on this Erev Shabbat, it is the 4th day of the month of Nisan, 5784, corresponding to April 12th, 2024. Suri Eden Ewing was given the Hebrew name Shalev Shai. And there's a little quote here from the book of Proverbs in the Hebrew Bible. A good name is better than riches, and you earn your good name throughout your life, and you have already started doing that. I should point out, though, that your name in English, Eden, is also a Hebrew name. It's Eden. Eden is the Garden of Eden. And if talk about the idea of a tranquil, beautiful place, it's captured in the English name that you were given as well, too. So Mazel Tov, a little remembrance. And I ask you to return to your seat. You'll be getting back up in a minute to light candles. And Arthur, if you will, turn to the first slide. Where the world is dark with illness, let us spark the light of healing. Where the world is bleak with suffering, let us spark the light of caring. Where the world is dimmed by lies, let us spark the light of truth. May the honor of lighting our Shabbat candles inspire us to acts of goodness that illumine all the world. May the mitzvah of lighting these Shabbat candles remind us to sanctify life with the power of light. And I want to invite Sheldon and Ralph and Kesha and all the whole family, and especially Suri, who will take the honor of lighting the candles, to join us here at the front to welcome Shabbat. The whole family is welcome. Our readers tonight are Dorit Bengal, Yossi Bengal, Bruce Hillenberg, Howard Liederman, Sheila Glass, and Rabbi Miriam Jaris, and we'll continue with Dorit.
Shabbat Shalom. We come together this Shabbat, each bringing with us a private world of hopes, of fears, of dreams. Some of us are burdened by anxieties and cares that all but crush our hope in the future. Others have hearts filled with happiness, grateful for the joys of the past week, yet aware that even the most fortunate are vulnerable before the mystery of tomorrow. Every life is a unique blending of joy and sorrow, a fulfillment and frustration. Beneath our uniqueness, we are all bound together by our common humanity. All of us deeply yearn to know the true freedom and peace. Each of us seeks the personal liberation of a mind that is not enslaved to a conventional wisdom, a heart that is able to love without fear, a spirit that cries yes to our potential. Each of us strives, too, for the inner peace that comes with finding a harmony between our aspirations and our abilities. This is the Shabbat peace to which we aspire.
Lachuna ranana, lachuna ranana, lachuna ranana, la Shabbat. Lachuna ranana, lachuna ranana, lachuna ranana, la Shabbat. Naria, naria, la yom simchatenu, nizkar b'shalom. Naria, naria, la yom simchatenu, Bismirot naria lo. Lachun ranana, lachun ranana, lachun ranana, la Shabbat. Lachun ranana, lachun ranana, lachun ranana, la Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom. May the doors of our community be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May they welcome all who have cares to endure, gratitude to experience, hopes to nurture. May the doors of our community be narrow enough to shut our pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May their threshold be no stumbling block to young or unsure feet. May they be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harness. May this congregation be, for all our enter, the doorway to richer and more meaningful life.
Mishkenoteka Israel, Ma tovu, O Alecha Yaakov, O Alecha Yaakov, Mishkenoteka Israel. Likrat Shabbat, lechu v'nelcha, lechu v'nelcha. Mekor habracha, ma tovu, o alecha Yaakov, o alecha Yaakov, mishkenoteka Israel. Ma tovu, o alecha Yaakov, o alecha Yaakov, mishkenoteka Israel.
For generations, our people spoke of our tradition as perfect and everlasting. They extolled Torah as a tree of life, filled with eternal truths to which we must hold fast in all times and ages. Experience has revealed a different story. There are very few precepts or words of wisdom that endure forever. Societies mature, people change, needs expand, cultures adapt. This precludes any source of ultimate righteousness that is true and altogether just. Be with you in a second once I get my fingers to work. This messy reality demands us to acknowledge that righteousness and justice lie not in a book or in some mysterious realm beyond our reach. The burden of the fate of humanity is ours alone to bear. Even the rabbis of old understood that all the Torah study in the world would never be enough to make a real difference. The human condition can only improve through the work of our own hands. Let us begin by opening the gates of righteousness and justice through our own will.
Niftach lanu sharet tzedek chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Niftach lanu sharet tzedek chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Niftach lanu צדק חן וחסד ורחמים נפתח לנו שערי צדק חן וחסד ורחמים.
At one with our forebears, we affirm that righteousness and enlightenment shall be our torch. We shall teach these values diligently to our children all the days of our lives. We shall endeavor to live by these values in the comfort of our homes or on cold and windswept roads, whether adversity bows our heads or fulfillment makes our spirits soar. Our hands shall mete out justice to all, and our eyes shall be open to the light of truth. We shall emblazon our paths through life with this light as a beacon for all humanity.
My light is in me. Where is my hope? My hope is in me. Where is my strength? My strength is in me and in you, and in you. Where is my strength? My strength is in me and in you, and in you.
Robert Ingersoll, one of the towering humanists of the 19th century, wrote, if abuses are destroyed, we must destroy them. If slaves are freed, we must free them. If new truths are discovered, we must discover them. If the naked are clothed, if the hungry are fed, if justice is done, if labor is rewarded, if superstition is driven from the mind, if the defenseless are protected, and if right finally triumphs, all must be the work of our hands. The grand victories of the future must be won by us and by us alone.
Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor, lo alecha ligmor, lo alecha hamlacha ligmor, lo alecha ligmor, velo ata ben chorin lebatel mimena, velo ata ben chorin
Like the traditional Jewish prayer service, our humanistic Jewish liturgy speaks a great deal about peace. Yet there is a crucial difference. While tradition calls upon the God who made peace in the high heavens to make peace upon us here on earth, our version reminds us that making peace is an exclusively human responsibility. There is, however, no universally agreed upon humanistic perspective on war. Some believe violence should always be avoided. Others hold that sometimes war is the only way to prevent greater harm, or that when they are attacked, people have a right to defend themselves. Despite our differences, humanists are united in a commitment to promoting peace first and foremost by working for it in our lives, in our communities, and among the nations. Humanists also agree that those nations committed to secularism and real democracy are the ones that are best suited to promoting the dialogue that reduces tension and increases mutual understanding. Throughout recorded history, human beings have always engaged in warfare. This makes it difficult to discern whether or how it can be completely eliminated. Yet one thing is certain. Whatever else we humanists may believe about war and peace, we agree that what we choose is our responsibility alone.
Na'aseh shalom, shalom ba'olam. Na'aseh shalom aleinu ve'akol ha'olam ve'imru shalom. Na'aseh shalom aleinu ve'akol ha'olam ve'imru shalom. Na'aseh shalom, shalom ba'olam. Na'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam ve'imru shalom.
In this community where we find strength and common purpose, we turn our minds and hearts toward all those who need our love and support, those who are ill, those who suffer pain of the body or spirit, those who are lonely, those who have been wronged. Tonight, our well wishes are extended to Jim Walker, a beloved member of our community, and we open up our congregation now to any whom you'd like to extend well wishes. Anybody on this side of the room? No? Anybody over here? Okay. May all who suffer know that they are not alone, that we are there. May they be healed quickly. May they experience a complete recovery, a refuah shlema, the renewal of their bodies and the renewal of their spirits. At dark times in Jewish history, there were moments such as this one during Jewish services when prayers were offered for those held hostage. The redemption of captives, pidyon shvuyim, was considered an essential mitzvah. Sadly, we once again find ourselves in such a reality. In the spirit of our ancestors who lived through those terrible days, we voice these fervent hopes. May those taken captive find the courage to carry on. May those who love them not despair of their return. May they soon emerge from their confinement whole in body and in spirit, to know once again the embrace of loved ones.
Makom ha'koach b'tochenu, Mekorot ha'bracha me'evrotenu. May the source of strength that dwells so deep within us Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Shalom. Mekom ha'koach betochenu, mekorot ha'bracha mi'evrotenu. May those in need of healing know refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Shalom.
I got a promotion, and I started to make the call. Then I remembered. I got sick and didn't know what to do. I started to make the call. Then I remembered. I forgot what that Yiddish expression meant. I started to call. Then I remembered. I wanted your recipe. I started to call, and then I remembered. Good news, bad news, wisdom and guidance. I start to make the calls, but then I remember. You aren't out there. You aren't going to answer. You're in my heart. I'll always remember. Our thoughts turn to those who are no longer with us, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every people and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We recall now our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have taken into our hearts with our own. Tonight, we observe the yahrzeits of a great number of people in our congregation due to our break, but we especially offer our condolences to the Himmelho family on the loss of Paul Himmelho. Yehi zichro livracha, may his memory be a blessing. Our yahrzeits tonight include these members of our community and those who treasured them: William Eisen, Lawrence Altman, Yaffa Bogley, Sheldon Bobrow, Max Ellenbogen, Gloria Burrow Ellis, Ben Gaber, Dora Glass, Max Hirsch, Shirley Klein, Lila Breyer Liederman, Celia Meisner, Bruce Mumbrew, Rita Muroff, Martha Reiter, Ralph Sarkis, Michael Scala, Ben Stowicki, and Andre Zador. If there's someone whom you're thinking about who is not listed, we'll go around the room. Go ahead. Anybody else on this side?
Jerry Starr.
Anybody over here? Did we miss anyone at all? We say Yehi zichram livracha, may memories of them provide blessing. By this we mean that knowing that we are now facing life in their absence, that the only salve sometimes are the beautiful memories and lessons and times that we spent together. If you can do so comfortably, I invite you to please rise as together we recite our humanistic interpretation of Kaddish. Nit gadal v'nit kadash beruach ha'adam. Let us dignify and ennoble all people in the spirit of our shared humanity. Let us acclaim the preciousness of life. Let us show gratitude for life by approaching it with reverence. Let us embrace the whole world, even as we wrestle with its parts. Let us each in our own way take up our share in serving the world and seeking truth. May our commitment to life help us to strengthen healing of spirit and peace of mind. May justice and peace permeate and comfort the house of Israel and all those who dwell on earth. And let us say, Ken Yehi, may it be so. So I had found out just moments before I recorded this interview with SIVAN. Oh, please be seated. That's where Arthur, I'll come up and I'll be back there to do it in a minute. that she wasn't going to be here for the IISHJ. I think I mentioned that at the beginning, so that's the first thing I talked about with her. Most of you who have been around for a while do know who Rabbi SIVAN Maas is, but there are many people who don't, so let me just give you a very brief bio of her. She is the first Israeli rabbi that was ever ordained by our movement. She was ordained by Rabbi Wein back in 2003 when the Institute was just coming together. Since then, she has taken on many roles in Israeli secular humanistic Judaism. This includes serving as the dean of what over there they call the International Institute. They call it Temura, which means transformation. She's also the director of the Secular Library, which publishes works on Judaism as culture. Sivan serves as head of a large coalition of secular and humanistic projects and organizations in Israel, simply called Yahadut Chilonit, Secular Judaism. She first became aware of our movement when serving as the community shlicha, the emissary from the Jewish Agency for Israel, who serves in this community on a yearly or biannual basis at the Detroit Jewish Federation. In fact, I'm working on getting the one that serves there now to come and speak to us sometime in the spring or summer. Subsequently, her father, Yaakov Malkin, who was a very noted Israeli educator, a literary critic, and professor emeritus now or then, he died a few years ago, 4 years ago, I think, and the Faculty of Arts at Tel Aviv University. He became also very involved in the movement, was a good friend of Sherwin Wein's. So you never know what you're going to get when you do an interview, but I did prepare for it. I just want to give you a little bit of background on our movement there. Here, when you think of humanistic Judaism, you think of it as one of the streams of Judaism, right? Reform Judaism, Reconstructionist, Conservative, and we're the little teeny tiny one called Humanistic Judaism. There, humanism is, as it is here for the broader population, it's the value of humanism. And Judaism is the overwhelming culture already. They didn't have to explain secular Judaism to Israelis. What they do need to teach them is a humanistic way of looking at the world, which is shared by most liberal people in Israel, as it is here, even those here who say that they believe on one thing or another. Most of us who are, let's say, believers in liberal democracy and so forth, share a lot of great and important humanistic philosophies and ideas together. I asked her to talk about what happened, and you'll hear that, and how she learned about it. She then went on to talk about, and this is what I wanted to put into context, some of the work that their movements had been doing, and I put movements before the war, because these are the people that were in the streets that you heard about, demanding a democratic Israel. And they are back in the streets now. And I think I even made the point there, this is the only war I can remember that had the full backing of the people, and the people did not gather around the government. They did not come to the back of the government. They opposed the government even as they have fought in the war, and you'll hear more about that. So she does a little bit on that. And then about 15, 20 minutes in, there's a little bit of a tone shift, and I asked her to address some things personally. Some of the things we've been debating, to be very honest. I don't think at this point I need to go into where I stand anymore. If you haven't been reading my commentaries, please do. They're very accessible. They're also on the website now. You can go to the menu, it says commentaries, and you know that we've been involved in debate. I've given my pulpit over 2 times now to people with whom I very, very much disagree about their perceptions of this war. I won't be doing that anymore. From now on, we'll be having broad and wonderful conversations, but not every Friday night. This is the program I had planned before any of that happened, and I wanted you to hear from Sivan, so as the head of Humanistic Judaism in Israel. So I'm just going to run back there, dim some lights. It is subtitled, so if you can't hear it too well, I worked very hard on those subtitles, so. Well, the AI helped me a little bit. The AI can not be good at people without. Well, Sivan, thanks for joining us tonight. I'm sorry that you're not going to be with us in person. I just learned this before we started the interview, that you won't be joining us in person on May 3rd, which makes, I think, this opportunity to be with you even more important. Let's go back. Let's rewind 6 months. And if you could, please talk about how you learned about it, how you, your family, the community that you lead reacted to what happened on October 7th, etc. The movement in particular, I think people would be interested in knowing about. And I'll open that up as a sort of a wider question.
So good evening, and I really did hope that I would be able to see you and many other friends in our upcoming meeting, but I won't be able to come. As you know, there is still a war going on. I am going back to 6 months ago in just a minute. At that time, I was visiting my family. Some of my family live in Europe, and I was spending time with them, taking a breather from Israel at the time, fighting for its democracy. Some of you may realize that that was a long stretch of time in which we were with many other hundreds and thousands of people in the streets, trying to safeguard Israel's democracy. And we thought it can't get worse. And that's why we were out there in the street. October 7th, I heard the news while I was in Europe, not believing what I'm hearing. In the beginning, what we heard was that kids ages 16, 17, 20 were in the Nova party, and they were being attacked with no retaliation from the Israeli Defense Forces. We couldn't believe what we were hearing. You can imagine that immediately, you know, we were ringing anybody we could think of that would have connection to either information or people that we knew were or could be there. And the news just kept pouring in, and the numbers kept rising, and realizing that young women, younger than my girls, were raped, were murdered, were taken hostages. And it was very, very frightening. It really sounded like a pogrom against Jews in the late 1900s. I mean, it was just unbelievable. We just couldn't believe what we were hearing. I mean, we're living in sovereign, independent country, getting stronger basically after the Holocaust. And here we're hearing horrors that sounded like they were coming from stories from our parents from the Holocaust. People were, I mean, homes were infiltrated, babies killed. I mean, Holocaust, just because they're Jews. They weren't soldiers. They weren't fighting anyone. They were at home. And you know, it's like in the States, I guess. I mean, it's like when your kids go to high school, or your kids go to elementary school, or they go to a marathon, they don't expect to be killed just because they're there. And that was the feeling. The feeling was, wait a minute, where is the responsible adult here? I mean, what's going on? I mean, that's not supposed to happen. And so this is where it caught me. This is where it caught all my friends and family who all live in Israel. In a trauma that I think exists until today, which I'm sure we will talk about more later. But you have to understand that we live in social trauma. I don't know of another historical event in the recent years where for 6 months, 133 people are hostages with a very, very cruel enemy. And this is where we're at today. Does it mean that we didn't do anything since then? Of course we did. And we can talk about what it is we did, but is the trauma over? Absolutely not. Is the war over? Absolutely not. It could be escalating. We don't know what's going to happen in the next few hours. We absolutely don't know. And this is the level of anxiety that we live in.
What role did the movement take in responding with the various communities that we have and our rabbis and other leaders?
I think it varies a bit in I would say the stages of these 6 months, but I think that if I'm looking at it as a phenomena and not specific examples, which I will give specific examples, but as a phenomena, the rabbis and our students all took a productive role in whatever capacity they can. We're all secular and we're all humanists, and we all care about every human life. And each of us try to find a way to help, to just help. People were taken away from their homes. A whole kibbutz had to uproot and move. Where did they move? So, for example, Nir Oz moved to Mishmar HaEmek, which is another kibbutz, which, by the way, Yiftach, my husband, who many of you know, was born there and was raised there. And in Mishmar HaEmek, who weren't equipped. I mean, they are a well-off kibbutz, but they weren't equipped to adopt a whole kibbutz. I mean, how do you do it? And these are people who are, as I mentioned before, traumatized because many of them have lost their siblings, their children, their parents. And how do you deal with that? So, for example, one of our students, her name is Tamar, and she was a director of a school for many years. Her assistant is now running the school for the children who have left Nir Oz. How do you start studying after what you've seen? How do you come together? What do you talk about? How do you teach anyone anything? So this is what she's doing daily. She's helping teachers teach. She's helping her friend, who is now the principal of the school, to teach. Now think about it. We're just a few weeks away from Pesach. How are we going to celebrate liberation? What are we liberated from? Are we liberated? What kind of Pesach Haggadah do you write this year? So these are the things that Tamar, for example, has been doing. Another one of our rabbis, her name is Ruit. For the past, I think, 6 years, she's been working in an area which is close to the Gaza border and building new schools in the area who have won prizes of the government prizes for excellence in the past few years. And this was an area, you have to understand that it's not only people in kibbutzim who are maybe more better educated, but people from Sderot, from other small towns in the area who didn't have a good education system. And Orit is running this effort together with other people to create schools like that. Most of the teachers in those schools are dead. These schools closed. Now, some of the families are coming back, but the families, many of them, didn't ever study in the same school. And they're suddenly put together in a school with strange teachers who they don't know, and they're supposed to start studying.
And this is part of the larger issue of, I've heard, as many as 500,000 displaced and relocated Israelis, yes?
Exactly, and this is only in one area, and that is in the south. There's a similar phenomena going up in the north. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people in Israel who are not living in their home anymore. But I'm talking about the people, the stories that I've been telling up to now are all stories of people who were physically affected, certainly emotionally traumatized, during the 7th of October.
Right.
And you have to understand, it's not over. It's just not over. So the two examples that I've been giving are people who are all educated by our movement, who are true humanists, secular Israelis, who are trying to rebuild some sort of basic confidence in people's own humanity to survive. And then we have other rabbis who have been working with displaced people from the north and from the south and other places in the country. And then there are those who have been doing Shabbat services with families of the abducted people who are in Gaza, either in Tel Aviv, in the center of the city in Tel Aviv. These people gather together to get support from each other, but also to try and shake our government into creating some agreement. And the agreement should be good for everyone. But at this point, we have serious political issues which are not allowing us to come to end this war and to get some sort of agreement and some sort of relief, and getting back some of the people that have been abducted. Nobody knows how many of them are still alive and in what condition they're in. So the support is a strange kind of support. On the one hand, some of our rabbis and students, come from an educational background, social workers, psychologists, who can give that kind of support. But all of us can give the kind of support of people who are coming together to celebrate, I don't know if to celebrate, to strengthen themselves through their Jewish identity. To say, the fact that we're Jews doesn't mean that we have to be dead. The fact that we're Jews can allow us to live in a sovereign country and can allow us to take care of each other. And those celebrations during the year, not celebrations, but the holidays,
Right.
Our Jewish calendar invites us, challenges us to figure out what can we do. Like the meeting you're having tonight on Friday night. What do you do on a Friday night when a war is going on? And many of you have various political thoughts and many views, and many of you have different thoughts of what should we do next. I don't know, many of you may be military people. I'm not. I did serve in the army, but I'm not a military person. I don't know what the right way, what the right solution to get out of this mess is. Certainly the situation that is there now can't go on. But what can we do? That's a serious question. us as secular humanist rabbis need to make sure that we keep educating our basic moral values. And how do we do that? I can show you some examples of what we do, but we
Okay, go ahead, and then I do want to follow up on some things that we could do to help out in Israel as well. But I know you wanted to share your screen and show us
Yes.
something going on.
Let me show some of the things that we did. So, as you know, in religious Jewish families, every Friday night, people gather together to celebrate the Shabbat by repeating the same text. Why? As you know, in our movement, we say what you believe and do as you say. In other words, if we don't choose a text and repeat it again and again and again, we cannot assume that people, and what we decided to do is that we will take the Declaration of Independence of Israel and use it as our basic text. Here you see a blessing that is written for Hanukkah, in which this was a page that we distributed. It went viral. I will show it to you in a minute. It's in Hebrew. This is just a translation from an excerpt from it. And basically the idea was, how do we connect Hanukkah to the events that are going on? And that we need to understand that working in time of darkness can change a bit if we can actually see the light. So it's not about saying, let's put the war on the side and let's try to talk about us, but it's all the time keeping the two together and making sure that your moral compass is very, very clear. The pages basically looked like this. This is a Seder for Pesach that we did before the war, which, when I started to talk today in our meeting, we talked about how we were all out there in the streets trying to fight for Israel's democracy. And that's when we chose the Jewish Megillah of the independence of Israel. You have to understand that just like every other holiday in the Jewish culture, which is connected to another Megillah, which is a scroll, like Purim, we just read the Megillah of Esther, or the scroll of Esther. What we're trying to say here in Israel, we have to read the Jewish scroll of the independence and connect it to our holidays. Now, I'll give you an example of what our scroll says, and I'm going to ask you, Jeff, to read because you read in English much better than I do. So if you can see it, can you please?
Yes, it says, the state of Israel will be open for Jewish immigration and for the ingathering of the exiles. It will foster the development of the country for the benefit of all its inhabitants. It will be based on freedom, justice, and peace, as envisaged by the prophets of Israel. It will ensure complete equality of social and political rights to all its inhabitants, irrespective of religion, race, or sex. It will guarantee freedom of religion, conscience, language, education, and culture. It will safeguard the holy places of all religions, and it will be faithful to the principles of the Charter of the United Nations.
This is a humanist text. This has all the foundations of what we believe in and inspire, and are inspired by it for the future of our lives. The fact that we haven't been able to accomplish everything that was envisioned by our mothers and fathers who wrote this just means that we have a lot more work. I'm sure that if we would look at the Declaration of Independence of the United States and we would judge it 70 years after the foundation of the United States, we would see that there was a very big gap between what people envisioned and what people were able to achieve. So we have a lot of work. And this was our position before the war broke out. This is still our position. And we're adamant to keep sharing this text. This text was, by the way, translated into English and also, as you see, into Spanish. We talked about it, as you can see, I appeared on the television on what we call the Democrat TV, which is a independent television station which has a very big rating in Israel, and also a piece was written about these pages, which appeared in the general media in Israel. And so we continued. We went with the same concept during Yom HaAtzmaut, and this is Hanukkah. And as you see, we use the same graphics that that our organization, our international organization uses, because we feel we're all one family. And we came out with pages for Hanukkah about, I'll go back to Hanukkah in a minute, just to show you that we did the same thing for Shabbat. And this is another page about Shabbat, which I will be happy to send to you. And the concept was all the time, don't forget what it is that you believe in, and make sure that this is your beacon, and that whatever you do, if you work in schools, or if you work with people who have moved away from their homes, if you meet soldiers and give them lectures, which is what some of our rabbis do, make sure you talk about the humanist values all the time, and make sure that this is how they understand that this is what we expect from them, just as it is what they expect from us. 2 weeks ago, last Friday, my friend and colleague Ayala celebrated her 60th birthday. And this is a translation of a blessing that she gave. And I thought I would like to share it with you, because I think you can see how these humanistic values resonate in what we do here, how much we believe that what we are looking for is something that we all believe in. The fact is that the fact that the reality does not meet our expectations, I think only explains why our national anthem is called Hope. Our national anthem is not about achievement, because we haven't achieved. Our national anthem is about what we strive for and what we hope. So this is the blessing that Ayala wrote. And it starts with stories. It starts with connections of roots to the stories that we read, not necessarily believing everything that is written, but it is part of our shared culture. And that is how she starts. We, the daughters and sons of Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, share a common heritage. We're all together with this heritage. We extend our blessings, and here are her hopes for the freedom and well-being of all those people who are out there risking their lives to keep us safe and sane. And see how she ends this part. She says, may we all live in love tranquility and serenity, enjoying freedom and justice for all those who live in the world. And you can hear, on the one hand, the Israeli Declaration of Independence sort of resonating and sounding familiar here, but you can also hear Rabbi Sherwin-Wine talking, and you can also hear many of our other rabbis talking, and realizing that this is really our belief.
Well, I do want to interrupt you for a moment, because this is not a shared belief right here, right now, in our country among Jews. Not the beliefs for peace, but the beliefs that we would extend our blessings to the IDF. Right now, the IDF, by many, not all, and probably not even close to the majority, but by a number of people, and this is where things differ in the United States and in the diaspora, the IDF has been demonized. The IDF has been seen as a propaganda machine, as a force of evil, as filled with lies, on a genocidal mission. And one of the reasons I wanted you to speak is to give a little bit of a sense, not only of these ideals, we share these ideals and we talk about them, but the fact is that humanism has not determined whether war is a good thing or not, under what circumstances. We disagree on that. I have a pacifist friend who's a humanist and a very, very serious pacifist, and I have people that are more militant, and I have people that are in the middle. And so this idea, you show something from Federation and this and that, in some parts of our community and in larger parts of the American Jewish youth community, outside of our movement, there is an enormous amount of criticism for the IDF and a feeling that, no, they are not there to protect the safety of the Jewish people. They are there to destroy Palestinians. Now, I take issue with that. My congregation now knows that I believe and have some sympathy for the conduct of the war. And I'm not asking you to speak as a military expert, because I understand that you're not. But there's nobody in Israel who's not been in the IDF. It's a people's army. And so I do think it's important for you, as the head of our Israeli movement, to explain to people why you would put into a document that many people feel would sort of deny its humanism, blessings for the IDF. I am not among them. But blessings for the IDF is not interpreted by some as a humanistic statement.
So thank you for this, because I think we are all facing this challenge daily. And I think the way for me to answer this is through some personal stories. Yes. Of myself, but also of people in our movement, both students and rabbis. And one of the stories has to do with a woman that is studying with us. Her, as you said, it's a people's army. We started the year with 17 students in our rabbinical school, and 4 of them are in the reserves. Now, what does it mean in the army? What do they actually do? Okay, so one of them, his job was, he's an officer and a physician. His job was to find out who are the people that were killed. In other words, he works in forensic medicine. This guy, I talked to him a few days after the war began. He hasn't slept. He was hardly able to talk because the horrors that he had to see every single day were just horrific. He didn't believe what he saw. He certainly didn't think that he would still be doing that 4 months after the first day that he did.
Let's just be clear. You're speaking about he was researching as a forensic physician what happened on October 7th
Yes.
in the kibbutzim and the communities.
Yes, as a soldier of the IDF. Another one, also an officer in the IDF, also a student in Tmura, his job was to find out where are the soldiers that were missing, both women soldiers and men soldiers. Talking to, first of all, trying to find out where they are, and then having to relay horrible messages to the families. You can say, okay, that could be humanistic because they're not fighting in the front lines, but that's part of being in the IDF. The other part being in the IDF is that this officer's daughter and son-in-law were fighting in Gaza. The man who was fighting in Gaza, his best friend was killed because he hesitated, because he thought that the person standing in front of him may have not been a Hamas person, but a Palestinian. The second of hesitation cost his life. And why did he hesitate? Because he's a humanist. Because he didn't want to just shoot people. You have to understand that who are those people that we're talking about, the IDF? These are our sons and daughters who were brought up on the same values that I was talking to you about before. They're not there to just kill blindly. They're there to find, first of all, the people that were taken hostages. If the Hamas would give the hostages, there will be no war. The war would end. Why aren't they giving them up if something is so horrible that's going on? And I'm not saying that the horrible things are not happening. War is terrible. War in Vietnam was terrible. War in Ukraine is terrible. War is terrible. It's always terrible. But when you have the basic spine of the education in the army teaching you not to kill people who are not a threat to you, that's part of what I was taught as a soldier. That's part of what my son, who served in the IDF for 5 years, not 2, not 3, not 4, 5 years, was made to understand that this is the basic rule of what is going on. I'm sure you're hearing this with 2 ears. One is empathy to what I'm saying, and you all know I'm not lying. But your other ear is the critical ear, saying, so how come so many people are killed? How come all this horrible thing is going on? I can just tell you that, back to what I said before, war is horrible. I want the war to be over. I want it to be over. I don't want it to have had to start, but certainly it hopefully could have been over before. I don't know what the price will be when the war will be over to us. I don't know. I know that the price is horrible on both sides. It's something that we need to stop all the time. The stories that we keep hearing. Another example. One of our students, her son is in Gaza. You can imagine sleepless nights, worried all the time, telling the same stories that I've been telling you. Their officers, their commanders are holding them back, not to shoot, not to kill, to avoid, with whatever measures they can, innocent being injured, certainly killed. And they are endangering themselves because of that. That's why we're blessing the IDF. Because they're endangering themselves for us and for the Palestinians, that they are trying not to hurt them. It's so much easier to bomb Rafiah right now and kill everyone. What's the problem? Why aren't we doing it? Why isn't Israel doing it? Now, if you would ask me, is Israel doing the best that it can? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a military person. I'm not a politician. But I can tell you from the people that I know that serve in the Israeli army, and many of them are commanders, which means that they know many, many other soldiers, that is what they're taught. Do you know how many educational materials of the Hamas were found in Gaza, teaching kids exactly the opposite of what I've been telling you? They don't have a charter of independence, of a humanist independence like we do. They don't. If they do, I would love to see it. They teach a completely different kind of education than what we teach. I do believe that our sons and daughters are in imminent danger every single day because they are trying to abide by humanist values. It makes them more vulnerable, not less vulnerable. And therefore, I truly believe that the reason that we are in this situation, which is very bad, but not as worse as it could be, is because they abide by these humanist values. And if we want Israel to continue to understand that this must remain our values, we have to keep teaching it. And every time we have a holiday, every Shabbat service, we have to read these values again and again. And we must strengthen our IDF soldiers, and we must strengthen our security forces to keep being humanist. That's what we're blessing them. We're not blessing them to be better fighters or to kill more people. That's not the blessing.
I understand. To make the argument that you make as American Jews lately has been very difficult. One of the things that I tell those who are my interlocutors on these issues is that I do not generally trust the Israeli government, and I think we share that. Interestingly, this is one of the first of this kind of war I've ever seen, or that is known in history, where the people united despite their government, not behind their government. But that aside for a moment, I say to people, yes, I have been very critical of the Ben-Gvirs and the Netanyahus and the Eliezer Smotriches, and I would have been in the streets with you had I lived in Israel. But when it comes to the IDF, this is not some faceless, as you might think of it, genocidal organization. These are my friends. These are my colleagues. These are my colleagues' children. One of my dearest friends is a captain in the reserves. She has now been in uniform so long, she can't remember that she was ever not in the reserves. And she's down in Gaza every day. And she has the most beautiful smile. She works for the Reform Movement. And she used to work for me in Miami as a shlicha. And we have a very, very long relationship with her family. And every day, every week, usually around Shabbat, she'll put something on the internet. She has a wonderful smile, makes everybody happy and light up. And then I talk to her a little bit here, a little bit there, and I realize how very hard it is for her and how her ideals are challenged every day by the fact that she must be at war. But she doesn't question the necessity to protect her people. It doesn't mean she agrees with necessarily this movement or that movement or another movement, but the collective of the IDF is something that I have come to trust in 40 years of working with shlichim, of working with veterans, of working with people like you. So I wanted to add that there, and I wanted to thank you very much for saying that, because it is not very easy to say that in our movement these days, at least around everyone.
I certainly appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and to talk to the congregation and to hear that we're not alone.
You are not alone.
It's frightening. It's frightening. It's probably always frightening to be Jewish. Sometimes in history it's more or less. Sometimes the geography makes the difference, but it's frightening to be Jewish. And we're all Jewish. And we have to understand that we are striving for peace. Israel is striving for peace. The fact that our politics need to change, that's true, but that's democracy. And that's on us. We have to fight to change. Many of our rabbis belong to peace movements working together with Arabs, Israeli Arabs, and working together with Palestinians, because we believe in a shared future. When my father, Yaakov Malkin, who many of you know, he built a community center in Israel. He saw that Arabs are not coming. He built another community center for Arabs and Jews. This is how I was brought up. Arabs and Jews should live equally together here in Israel. I don't know how we're going to do it with people who absolutely hate us. I can tell you that most of the people that I know, all the people that have been writing and presenting on Israeli media, social and general, do not hate Palestinians. Certainly don't. And this is what we are looking in the eyes of other people who are not humanists. People, you need to understand, we are striving for peace regardless of the fact that we are humanists and many of our enemies are not. It's not a dispute about land. It's a dispute about basic principles of what does it mean to be human. We believe that peace should be among people who may have disagreement. For them, it means a country where they don't disagree with anyone, when they don't disagree with gays, where they don't disagree with people in different races, where they don't disagree with people in different religions, because they will not exist according to the writings that they have published.
Yes, correct. All right, so we're getting a little bit. Go ahead.
I just wanted to end by saying that not all Palestinians are like that.
Of course not.
Many of our friends are humanists. Palestinians, Arab Israelis, Israeli Jews are humanists. So we do have people to work with. But we need your support to understand that we need to keep humanism on a pedestal and to make sure that this is our shared beacon.
We had a couple of folks from Omdim B'Yachad here. I'm just curious, do we have our rabbis that are involved in that, any of them?
Yes, we do. We have people in Omdim B'Yachad. We have people in Rabbis for Social Justice who are both working with Palestinians.
They serve in the IDF when they're called, don't they?
They all served in the IDF when they're called, and their sons and daughters are.
I just wanted to make that little point. I think
it's a very important point, because these are the homes that they are raised in. These are their beliefs, and even in the people that were murdered near Gaza, there were peace workers who were killed amongst
notable ones.
Yes. So this is the terrible reality that we are living in. And I just wanted to mention that the blessings that Ayala wrote end up with a quotation from the Bible, hoping that all our weapons are transformed into agriculture and agricultural tools. And this is what we're striving for. This is what we're hoping for. And I believe that this Pesach, when all of us are going to sit around the table, we have to challenge ourselves and to understand that we in humanists who do not believe in a higher power understand that the higher power is inside of us. Yes. And if we want things to change, we have to look inside and understand that the empowerment for change comes from within and with the solidarity that we create together, regardless of the disagreements that we have. And we have to keep the disagreements.
I would also suggest, though, that it does need to, the discourse around Israel and Palestine here in the United States does need to become more fact-based. And I think that that's something that you very passionately reminded us of, because there is a tendency now to have demonized Israel to a degree of calling upon an anti-Semitic history of humanity that is completely, really knocked me out. And I recalled reading something Sherwin wrote, maybe 5 years before he died, about how anti-Semitism was disappearing. And I hate to think that, unfortunately, his prediction may have gone off the rails. Before we conclude, we did have the question about, given what the humanitarian crisis in Israel, this was the questioner, we certainly understand that there's a crisis as well in Gaza, but there's lots of places that people know to give. What would you recommend? Should we be helping the movement? Should we be giving to Tamura? Should we be finding other organizations? Maybe just give us a couple of examples before we conclude.
Okay, so I would say the most important thing, as I see it, and as I see my personal role, is to strengthen the strengtheners. In other words, to empower our rabbis, our secular humanist rabbis, and to support them and the students in our movement in what they're doing. Because the work that they're doing out there is very, very difficult. And once we support them, they support the various organizations and friends that they work with.
So Tamura is the answer.
Supporting Tamura, I believe,
I think that's great.
will empower us.
I think that's great. All right, so we'll stop with that. I think that's the perfect answer, and you have the credibility to be able to recommend it, and it was exactly what I was hoping you would do. Thank you so much. For us now who are watching this is Shabbat, so I know that it's never too early to wish anybody Shabbat Shalom, with a heavy emphasis on the Shalom part. Thank you so much.
Shabbat Shalom to you all.
So I'm not going to, it's getting late, and I knew this was going to go to 8:30. This is my statement on the war. And so that's what I wanted you to hear. I wanted you to hear. I've been told so many times what it means to be a humanist. This is a humanist.
May we know peace as we go on our way. May we be guided by love. May we be blessed with health and joy. May this be our blessing. Shalom. 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 May this be our blessing. Shalom. 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 May this be our blessing. Shalom. May we be sheltered by the wings of peace. May we abide in safety and in love. May grace and compassion find their way to everyone. May this be our blessing.
Shalom.
Shalom. Shalom. May this be our blessing. Shalom. 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 May this be our blessing.
Shalom. So this is our last meeting before Passover, and we want to wish everybody a meaningful and happy Passover, a zis and sweet Pesach, and peace. I want to thank Joseph, as always, Arthur for the slides, David for the streaming, Mazel Tov to Sheldon and his family, to Suri. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Join us for the Oneg.